gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for February 13th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, we have the first MPD sales results of the year, and don't forget Valentine's Day's tomorrow. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Rachel Kaser, like a laser. Rachel, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm happy to be back. I've had so much coffee this morning. I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
me
Because
too.
NPD was coming out today, and I was like, I need to be energized for this.
Exactly. We need the juice to talk about the sales juice. Yeah, we'll get into all of that. But yeah, it's been a minute. I understand you did a webinar this morning. That's always like, hey, rare and ready to go. I'll give a little behind the scenes. I didn't have a guest put together for this morning. I reached out to Mike. Like, Mike is usually good. He didn't respond. So I was just like, you know what? You know who's better than Mike? Rachel Kaser, like a laser. I got you in here and you were ready to go. I'm like, oh, you're awesome. You ready to go? Because the webinar.
I had my makeup on. I had my nice shirt on. Like I told you, it looks identical to all my other shirts, but it's the nice one because it was more expensive. So yeah, and my hair is done and hairspray, everything. I've done like everything up here that needed to be done. So I was ready to go. It was like, this was kismet.
Yes, this is perfect. Couldn't have worked out better. So I'm excited to hang out with you today and for this mess, which we're about to get into. But before we do, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with the January 2023 MPD report. This comes mostly from Matt Piscatella. They sent it over this morning. Here is what he had to say. January 2023 U.S. consumer spending on video game content, hardware, and accessories totaled $4.3 billion, a decline of 5% when compared to a year ago. Video game hardware spending was flat, while content was down 5%, and accessories was down 14%, and that spending fell and really dragged down the whole thing. January 2023 marks the first time the U.S. video game market experienced a year-on-year decline since September 2022. We've been tracking MPD. I know a lot of times you end up writing the MPD report, Rachel. And from those numbers, it usually is like, okay, yeah, things are down in hardware or software spending is down, but mostly it's like it's either even or just up 1% throughout most of the last year. And people are like, oh, well, things are still kind of coming back down to earth. Now it seems like, yeah, things are really coming back down to earth, especially after a really a robust holiday where it was a lot. Not necessarily easy, but a lot easier to find the big hardware things. So people made their big purchases in November, December, and probably slowed down for January, right?
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. January is always, which is funny because I'm a January baby. So January always seems like the hangover after Christmas. We've spent our big money. We've had our big celebrations. We've bought all the big games and consoles that we were going to buy. January comes around and, you open the wallet and a little fly buzzes out.
Yes, exactly. Especially if you got a birthday to go to as well. Yeah. By the way, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also, I think that we'll get into like the games that were available for sale. There were some big ones, but there were still like some pretty tough comparisons and stuff. But games did perform pretty well. Content only being down 5% is actually pretty good, all things considered. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was again the best-selling game of the month. That's the fourth consecutive period. The title has led the market in premium software dollar sales. 4 new games ranked among the top 20 best-selling games of January, led by Dead Space, which ranked number 2. Other new entrants include Fire Emblem Engage at number 5, Forspoken at number 7, and One Piece at number 9. The Last of Us Part 1 jumped from number 36 on the chart in December to number 11 in January, helped in part by the debut of The Last of Us HBO series. Excuse me. For these game sales, maybe we could start from The Last of Us and work our way back. that's probably what they were expecting, right? About that much of a jump, like almost getting all the way back in the top 10 for Last of Us Remastered, a game that I think most of the time usually still costs about $70. That's pretty good, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I can't help but think that's got to be part of the reason is the fact that they have a new version out. It's a little more expensive, and you've got a lot of people perhaps coming in who haven't experienced the game, who don't realize that maybe you can probably get like a PS4 disc of the original version for probably like $20.
Yeah.
So, but nope, they want the premium version, they get the premium version.
Exactly. That's the one right on shelves. It's the easiest thing. It's the one that you go to the store on your PlayStation 5. It's the game that's going to be right there. So yeah, that's good news, and that's the synergy that Sony's always looking for with these things, working the way that it was intended. Something that it did not necessarily seem to happen with the Uncharted film, right? Uncharted movie came out, and I don't remember many people talking about, oh, well, everyone's rushing out to go get the game. That didn't seem to happen, right? So it's like, well, the TV show does seem to work. Obviously, there might be a difference in quality there in terms of the Last of Us show and the Uncharted movie, right?
Yeah, well, I think the Uncharted movie, by the time it finally released, they just wanted it out. They wanted it off their release slate because it had been in development hell for so long, and it didn't even really seem to get a whole lot of marketing hype from what I remember. Like that really, like if I was deliberately waiting for it because I love Uncharted and I wanted to see the movie, but I don't remember it having quite the same hype cycle as The Last of Us. I mean, HBO is really excited about The Last of Us, and they're giving it like almost House of the Dragon level hype.
Yes, I mean they definitely are. I think they are treating it as their next big thing because clearly it is, and it has been, and it continues to grow week after week. So it's hitting for HBO, it's hitting for Sony, and everybody's making a lot of money on it. Let's see. In terms of the new games, Fire Emblem Engage, that's pretty good at number 5. That doesn't include digital sales. This game is I think Fire Emblem Three Houses was probably a little bit higher than that on the chart, but you could never really do that comparison because it depends on what games are out that month. I still think Fire Emblem Engage probably not going to quite match the sales of Three Houses, but this is better than I expected. It's up there above the perennial hit of Elden Ring, which is a top seller every month. It's ahead of even Forspoken, another new game that also a console exclusive, but Forspoken does include digital sales. That's pretty good for Fire Emblem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty impressed that it managed to. I mean, obviously, it's coming off of like a little bit of the hype of Three Houses. That definitely helps. And I mean, put it this way, I think that helped boost it above Forspoken because yes, they're both new games that came out in a relatively quiet month. But Fire Emblem has the IP backing it up.
Yes, and clearly, Fire Emblem is an IP that Nintendo can capitalize on. And that that's proof of it. And as far as Forspoken, a new IP, those tend to they can be hit or miss in terms of like, are they just going to break out immediately? It does not seem like that's quite happening with Forspoken. But is this? I mean, okay, Fire Emblem Three Houses sold about 3 million copies in that first year. That is, and so I think Engage, I think that's about at the ceiling for the first 12 months. I just don't think it's going to do as well as Three Houses, even though it does seem to be doing very, very well. But Forspoken tracking behind just the physical numbers for Engage means it's probably not going to be anywhere near, at least, if we are, extrapolating United States sales out worldwide, probably not going to be anywhere near 3 million in its first year. To me, that seems like a big budget game that needed to be in that 3 to 5 million seller range to really justify its existence. I don't know. This seems pretty rough for this game. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a little bit. It hasn't had the greatest launch. I mean, I think poor word of mouth, maybe not the most convincing marketing campaign has kind of put it a little bit on the back foot. And I did finish Forspoken, and I do need to go back and re-edit the review with a score. But yeah, I feel bad for it. It hurts. Oh, by the way, I did want to say that, I mean, in addition to Three Houses, Fire Emblem Engage is also coming off the goodwill of Fire Emblem Heroes as well.
True.
Because
you're right.
Because Three Houses was awesome, but I mean Fire Emblem Heroes has like so much traction. It's such a big audience now that I think that's also pushed it up a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely been what Nintendo said they were going to do with mobile, like keep franchises in the front of people's minds so that when a new game was there to buy, they're ready to do that. I would totally buy that. That's what's happening there. Forspoken could still come out and do just fine over time, especially if it has better longer legs than some other recent games. Like This is definitely better than like Callisto Protocol. Callisto Protocol seems to have just evaporated off the face of the planet. Now, we didn't get digital sales for Callisto Protocol, to be fair, but it was number 17 last month, and now it's not even on the chart at all. So Forspoken clearly doing better than that. And you never know. Like we try to extrapolate worldwide sales based on the MPD. I think that's usually pretty fair, but Forspoken could be the kind of game that does super well in Japan. Although I don't know if I think we've looked at those numbers and it hasn't necessarily set the world on fire there, but it's maybe it does better there, and that makes up for some of the difference that's missing here. Dead Space at number 2, though, it's a hit. That's a big hit. It's a game that seems
to sci-fi horror.
Yes, and it's like did well critically. It seems like it's going to crush commercially, right?
Oh yeah, since you brought up Callisto Protocol, it is eating Callisto Protocol's lunch right now.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's probably the kind of thing of where when people go look back at these, like the trio of games of Resident Evil 4 remake, Dead Space remake, and Callisto Protocol. Callisto Protocol is going to have a real hard time standing up to those other two in terms of being the game that people remember. It'll be like, oh yeah, and that came out at the same time as well. Everyone's going to remember this Dead Space. Everyone's playing it, and it's doing very well. And that does include digital numbers for Dead Space. So, but still, like up there ahead of Madden, FIFA, again, Elden Ring, Fire Emblem Engage, just behind Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The Call of Duty game is almost always still number 1 in January. So almost nothing is. I think Elden Ring, when it came out last year, was the first thing to dethrone Call of Duty. The previous year, Vanguard, and that was a slow year for Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And then One Piece Odyssey. You're a big anime head. That's good for One Piece, right?
I think so. I mean, again, I think. Well, I will say this: if Forspoken did not have like a hugely successful hype cycle, One Piece Odyssey had almost none of it. And part of me wonders, because it was available on. Was it available on Game Pass or no?
I don't know.
It wasn't.
I don't know.
I don't think it was.
So.
Because I remember seeing it on the Xbox store. No, I'm probably wrong. Yeah, it wasn't on Game Pass. I'm wrong. But actually, that's probably to its benefit. That probably is what got the sales boosted. But I think if we're talking about IPs that have great legs, then I would definitely say that One Piece is one of those.
When was that? When did Hi-Fi Rush launch? I guess that was that's digital only $30. But it came out I'm trying to remember when that thing was. It was at the end of January, right? This sales tracker goes through January 28th, so I don't think much of Hi-Fi Rush would have been on here, but it's not in the top 20 even if it would have been. And again,
January 25th, yeah.
Okay, so it could have technically been on here. Microsoft does share their digital with MPD, I want to say. I know I could look this up, but I'm not going to. But Hi-Fi Rush not on here. On Game Pass makes sense, right?
Yeah, it
also
probably
$30, and it's no physical,
True.
So just no chance it was going to be on here.
True, although I think in that case, probably the positive reception critically as well. In positive audience and critical reception is probably going to boost it a little bit higher, and I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe see it on next month's chart.
Yeah, that would be very cool. Accessory spending was down 14% in January when compared to a year ago. So it fell to $165 million, which is still, I think, historically a pretty high number for accessory spending. That's a sign that people are spending money on gamepads and headsets because they think they're going to be spending a lot of time with games going forward. So that trend is going down. Matt Biscatella said a drop in gamepad spending accounted for most of the overall decline. The PS5 DualSense wireless controller Midnight Black was the best-selling accessory of January in dollar sales. That could have been also people waiting and saving up money because they knew the DualSense Edge was coming out next month or the following month. So, yeah,
it's true. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see any other tidbits from this. We talked about Callisto Protocol. Yeah, I guess I'll point out Electronic Arts has 5 games in the top 20. Wow. That's pretty good. That's pretty decent. And then a lot of these, I think if you look for other companies that have had a lot of layoffs recently, I think they're looking at this list and be like, we're not selling a lot of games right now. And we're freaking out. It's not really an excuse, but I think that's why, Take-Two doesn't have a ton of stuff on here. Of course, they don't also share their digital numbers, so maybe that's why. Okay, Dead Island 2 is launching a week early. This comes from the Dead Island Twitter account. You asked for it, you got it. Dead Island 2 went gold, and it's coming out a week early. See you in LA on April 21st, 2023. So Dead Island 2 actually exists, actually real, coming out a week early. I believe this moves it out of the window of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which might have been a factor here. What do you think?
Probably. And my first thought is, when you asked for it, you got it. I'm like, I asked for it? When did I ask for it?
Oh, I did? Honestly, I forgot all about this. I've been asking for shit. I didn't do shit.
Yeah. I mean, that whole window I'm looking forward to. Tears of the Kingdom, Jedi Survivor. Yeah, like that whole window is going to be like, has already been taken up for me. So for them to say like, oh, you asked for it. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I really struggle to put any expectations on this. I don't. Do people want this? I assume maybe they do, because I think I've heard people talk about Dead Island excitedly, or Dead Island 2 excited. I know people like Dead Island at the time. It's been a long time, but I just don't know where what people's expectations are for this one. So I feel like this could come and go and fizzle out, and they are just pushing it out the door, as a lot of people in chat are speculating. Or maybe it's just surprisingly good, like the first one again, and has the chance to take over the world, like with long legs, and it comes out of nowhere again. But I just don't know what to expect right now. I suppose them saying that, hey, it's gone gold, we're going to put it out early, they probably are going to start the marketing blitz, if there is one. But I don't know. What are your expectations for it?
I don't think I really have expectations for Dead Island 2. I mean, I think my expectations vanished sometime about 6 years ago, after we didn't hear anything after that first trailer came out. It's sort of, I think they feel that they can. My fear is that they're going to like put something out that's maybe not that great, but they're just gonna be like, hey, at least it's out after all this waiting and all this hype. We finally made Dead Island 2, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's how it turns out.
I'm trying to remember like the lineage here, because I know Techland was the developer of the original. They moved on to do Dying Light. They put out Dying Light 2 recently, and that was it does not have the same effect as Dying Light 1, which is a game that just lived forever with updates, and people just never stopped playing it. So maybe there's room here, but I'm like, okay, who developed this then? It's Dam Buster Studios, and I'm like, okay, Dam Buster can't plan it, so I can't place it. So I looked it up. Homefront: The Revolution in 2016, and then they've been an assist studio on Chorus. So I don't know. You never know with the studio. Like, well, maybe this is their chance to fix any mistakes they might have had in their previous games. They've had a long time to work on this project. I just don't know again what to expect, and maybe people should keep their expectations low, which it seems like most people are doing.
I mean, to be fair, all they really have to do is deliver a zombie game that's fun and colorful and doesn't take itself too seriously. And I don't know. I mean, that doesn't seem like that should be that difficult. But if they try and go for anything resembling pathos, I think they're going to be. I will lose interest very quickly.
You're right. Don't try to do more. Like, don't get too big for your britches. Just give us the dumb fun that we got with Dead Island, and let me upgrade some weapons, and we'll be good. Like, I think you're right. And I forgot, I said Chorus, but the style on the title of that game makes it look like Chorves, because they use a V instead of a U. So Chorves, they helped on that game. Always helping out Chorves. AEW Fight Forever gets its ESRB rating, finally. This comes from Alex Hopley at Game Reactor. The upcoming wrestling game AEW Fight Forever has yet to reveal its release date. Despite planning a 2022 launch, that window has obviously sailed by, and yet the company hasn't given us a new date to look forward to. It was claimed that a dispute with the game's ESRB rating was one of the reasons AEW Fight Forever was locked in a release date limbo. However, now the game has received its official rating via the ESRB, which is T for Team. Looking at the content for AEW Fight Forever that it has, we can see things like dirty words, Molotov cocktails, and a good amount of blood. Hopefully this means a release date announcement isn't too far away, though, now for AEW Fight Forever. But it also now has another wrestling game to contend with in WWE 2K23, so we'll have to see if the former could hold a candle to the biggest name in pro wrestling games. This was a weird thing. Like, they said forever, coming out in 2022. Obviously, as we got to the end of the last year, it was clear that wasn't going to happen, but no one had heard word on what was going on here. And then someone noticed that it had been submitted multiple times to the ESRB, and apparently they kept getting M ratings, and they were trying to go for a T for Teen rating. And so they just kept changing things and then resubmitting it, or maybe who knows, maybe they were arguing and asking for a new sort of rating and not changing much in the game, but maybe they had to actually just go back and reduce, I'm assuming, the amount of blood. AEW is a wrestling promotion, Rachel, which I don't know why I'm explaining this to you.
I knew that, yeah.
Of course. But, they have a lot of blood. They'll cut their foreheads open and a ton of blood, and they'll make the big thing on TV all about that. And I imagine the game was like, yeah, we're going to capture that, and we'll still be able to get a T for T rating. Blood's everywhere. But it seems like they were not able to do that until making some changes. Now, yeah, okay, they got their rating. Hopefully, though, they can now flow right into, let's announce when this is coming out, get it out there, and get some excitement going before WWE comes along and eats their lunch. WWE is in a much stronger place than they were at the end of last year. So this could be tough for AEW Fight Forever, a game that's going to be intrinsically lower budget and have to rely on sort of charm and style as opposed to just raw content and, stunning graphics and things like that.
It still could do pretty well. I mean, because that's not nothing.
Yes.
Charm and style,
no.
and especially in wrestling.
Yes, and that's the hope. It's just this is a development team that used to work on the WWE games, and after years and years of that, they got into a place where they were really kind of just trash the games they were putting out. Now this team is working on AEW, but they are also giving this. They were given this order to make the games sort of like the N64 wrestling games that everyone remembers from when they were kids. But this is a team that never really worked on that much. I think they hired a few people that did work on those games, but they're like, okay, we'll go back and try to make stuff like that. So there's still questions like, are they going to be able to pull off that? And then on top of that, layered on top of can they execute? Is that something that still plays today? Is that something that still holds up for most audiences today, or is it going to be a nostalgia play like GoldenEye, where it's like we put out GoldenEye. And when people start playing it, like, okay, actually, this doesn't hold up anymore, and I don't want to play this anymore.
That's fair, yeah. Oh, also, in the ESRB description, it mentions that blood splatter effects, all that. Video footage of real matches also depicts blood on wrestlers' faces and bodies. I'm kind of wondering if that's what was holding up the rating, because you can scale back. You can scale it back to cartoony violence for a T rating, but if you're showing actual human, real people with blood on their faces, that might be harder for the ESRB to ignore. Right.
They probably had to go back, and those might have been longer sequences, and okay, we actually have to cut the editing down, so we only show that for a second instead of an elongated 5 seconds where we really focus on the blood. Yeah, I bet it's something along those lines. Good call.
Probably.
Original Metroid Prime devs criticize remaster for omitting the original credits. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Developers who were originally involved in the making of Metroid Prime have criticized this month's remaster for omitting them from its credits. Zoid Kirsch, who was a senior gameplay engineer on Metroid Prime and Metroid Prime 2 on the GameCube, tweeted his disappointment that the original staff aren't listed in the credits of Metroid Prime Remastered, which was released last week. Rather than listing everyone who worked on the original game, the remastered credits simply include a single screen that says, based on the work of Metroid Prime original Nintendo GameCube and Wii version development staff. Kirsch wrote, while many studios did amazing work on the remaster, I'm let down. Metroid Prime's remaster does not include the full original game's credits. I worked with so many amazing people on the game, and everyone's name should be included in the remaster, not just a single card like this. He was then backed up by Jack Matthews, who was a technical lead engineer on Metroid Prime 1 and 2, and a principal engineer on Metroid Prime 3. This is a travesty, Matthews wrote, not just for my credit, even though most of my code was probably replaced, but for people whose code and work are largely unchanged, like Mark H.H., Steve McCree, and all of the up-res art and concept of the game design and the game design. This is shameful. This is pretty shameful, and I don't know why you don't include the original credits. I understand this is a remake, which means that, like Matthews points out, there's going to be instances where someone who did the original works was almost entirely replaced with something new, because this isn't a ROM. Or an ISO running in an emulator. They ported the original code, and actually they ported the Wii code apparently. So, I get it, but it's not like Nintendo is worried about paying residuals to developers. They don't do that. So why not give them the credit? It's weird, right?
Yeah, that seems pretty crappy. Yeah, I'm not best pleased with that, because based on the work of it, and to that one card at the end, it doesn't even say, thank you to the original Metroid Prime development staff for for the work that you did or anything. It doesn't even, it just says based on the work. And I'm like, you could have at least said something like, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for giving us the original. But no, it's just, you're congratulations, you worked on a game and we're not going to say who you are.
Yeah. Someone who's seen the credits, does it still say like in the sound effect by Tommy Tellerico Studios? Because I want to see if that's still in there. Yeah, it's in movies, TV. We talk about this every time credits comes up. There's unions that say this is how things need to be done, and these things are well regulated within their own industries. Video gaming is the Wild West for credits, but this stuff does affect people's livelihoods, because the one way that they can, the one thing they can put on their resume is I shipped a game or I worked on a game. And when a remaster comes along, it would be nice to be able to remind people I worked on that. Here's my credit on Moby Games, and here's, like, if you want to look it up, here it is in the game itself. And then if you did all that work, even if it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, people are still going to be like, that is labor I did, and it was a labor of love, and I'm really proud of this game because it's one of the best games ever made. To then go and look and see your name not included, I would be pretty hurt too. So I don't blame these developers at all.
It's not like they're cutting down for time. Hello, Penny. It's not like they're cutting it down for time or anything like that. It's, because it's credits. You can go on as long as you want to.
Yes, absolutely. I would. It does seem like we've had multiple stories about people being credited in games over the last just few months. If people have been watching the show every day, they've definitely noticed that. It seems like the pressure's building in the direction of by the end of this year, maybe next year, the games industry coming together and deciding there needs to be a unified way of crediting people going forward. I would not be surprised if this happens very quickly.
Yeah, because I'm big on game preservation. We've talked about this before. I'm a big proponent of having games be brought forward to current generations so that the kids can play them. I'm not keen about charging $70 for it, The Last of Us, but but if it's about preserving the game for future generations, we should also be preserving people's contributions to that game for future generations. Because even if you didn't work on the remaster, you should still, you still gave us the original product. So I think you should be credited for it.
I agree. Okay. The Super Bowl had a Super Mario Brothers movie trailer that brought back the Super Mario rap. I'm gonna play it. I think we're okay. I'm gonna play it.
Yeah.
Let me hang on. Let me cut it here. Did you see this last night?
I didn't see it. No.
Okay. Well, let me.
I will admit I did have food poisoning last night. So.
Oh no! Well, how are you feeling? You feeling better?
Oh, I'm fine now. Yeah,
Okay,
but I was not going to be sitting in front of the TV for love nor money. I was either sitting in my bed out cold, or I was wishing I was out cold.
All right, there we
So
go.
I actually missed pretty much everything except I saw Rihanna's performance, but that's pretty much it.
Can you hear this? You probably can't hear. I'm gonna try to play it for you. Might be loud for you. You hear it now?
It's okay. Yeah, I can hear it.
The only thing you haven't drained is my bank account. For super service, call or text Super Mario Bros. Plumbing today at 92955.
All right, so there it is. That number also works, by the way. I'm gonna have Jan call it on the Bombcast tomorrow, so everyone look out for that.
Love it.
Yeah, that's fun. It's weird to see anything video game related get a Super Bowl commercial outside of hardware. I think we talked about this before the Super Bowl. I was mentioning in the chat. I don't remember. Like, what's the last? Has Nintendo ever had a Super Bowl ad, for example? And people are like, the Switch did. The Switch had a Super Bowl ad. None of their games have. But this a movie, film's much more likely to get a Super Bowl ad. That's the kind of audience that you think you can filter into a film and can have a big impact. It's a pretty good ad, though. I'm pretty happy with it. If you missed most of it, Rachel, they start with the rap from the cartoon from the 80s with Captain Lou Albano, and that's like their jingle for their commercial for Super Mario Brothers Plumbing, their company. And then they just do a bunch of funny stuff, and they have a big face like, oh, we won't drain your bank account. It's really cute. I'm very excited about this. How about you?
Yeah, I will admit I was a little bit on the fence about, I wasn't a little bit, I was completely on the fence about the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but they sometimes, they're getting me with the whole, like, yes, we know this material and we love it just as much as you do. And I'm a little bit like, Oh God. Okay. Just stop doing this to me, please.
I'm hopeful. It's a lot of fun, and if you call that number, Charlie Day answers, and he pretends to be Luigi. It's pretty cool. Not like live; it's a recording. Although, I mean, who knows? Maybe one time you call, it really is just Charlie Day just sitting by the phone, waiting for you to call. Okay, let me.
That would be an awkward conversation.
Yes, I feel
You
like
wouldn't know.
I feel like I could have a good conversation with Charlie Day. I would have a lot to say to him.
Well, because he seems like he's just doing his usual Charlie Day voice for Luigi. I wouldn't know where Luigi ends and Charlie Day begins.
Yes, exactly. Okay, let's move on here. The rumor is Starfield is arriving in June. This comes from Alex Hopley at Game Reactor. Microsoft's June 2022 showcase was an incredibly interesting one, not only for the games it revealed, but also the fact that it promised each of those titles would be coming within the next 12 months. Flash forward to 2023, and it seems that promise is going to be maintained. Journalist Jez Corden believes that Xbox is still aiming for a June release date for Starfield. He says, I'm of the opinion that Starfield is going to drop in June. I think Starfield's going to drop in June, even though I've got a bet that it gets delayed beyond June. The latest information I've got suggests June to me. There were previous rumors that Starfield's release date was going to get pushed out of the first half of the year, and that the game was aiming for a looser summer launch period. I don't know if those were rumors as much as a collective anxiety, right, Rachel? Like, everyone's like, they haven't set a date. Why wouldn't this game get delayed again? Of course, everything gets delayed a million times. This is one of the biggest games. They've messed up Halo by only delaying it a year when obviously they should have delayed it longer than that. They're going to delay it as many times as they need. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm right there with everybody. I'm having those same anxieties, but they haven't said anything, which to me does suggest I think we're probably still getting this in June. Do you think that's possible?
God, I hope so. I mean, I was worried when nothing about Starfield was shown at the developer direct. It's like they're showing just about everything else, but they didn't even hint at Starfield. They're like, oh, Starfield deserves its own show. It was like, yeah, but I mean, TikTok. So I mean, I hope it comes out in June. That would be pretty good. That would give us enough time to recover from Tears of the Kingdom. So yeah, that would be a good release date for Starfield if they can hit it, and I'm hoping they still can.
Yes. I think that it's the kind of thing where we can expect them to come out here pretty soon, announce that, hey, we're doing a Starfield developer direct, just focused on Bethesda Game Studios, just focused on this game like we said we were going to do, and here's the date, and here's all the stuff, and it's going to be a hot, like what it was June, that puts it 4 or 5, it puts it about 4 months out, right? So yeah, I think by the end of this month, we hear about when that developer direct would happen, and then we get a hot 3 months of them just going hard on marketing for that game. I think that's what everyone else is doing now, and Bethesda's the studio that really started the 6-month cycle of announce Fallout 4, 6 months later it's out, and we're just going hard on the marketing. That has shrunk to about 3 months for a lot of games now, and I think that Bethesda Game Studios is ready to do that. At the same time, this could easily just get delayed to the holidays still, right?
It absolutely could. I was just looking at the schedule just because I was trying to see what else is coming out in June that it would have to compete with.
They announced one of their games was announced for June at that last developer direct, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
Well, according to this, I
could check the gamer browser.
I'm just pulling it up real quick. I mean, Redfall is May 2nd, and like Street Fighter 6 comes out in June. Right. Diablo was it Diablo 4?
Hang on. It was something. Let me see if I can get to June here in the gamer browser. Diablo 4 is there. It's
Final Fantasy 16.
It's just the Elder Scrolls Online DLC. That's what they announced as the thing. So they would, of course, that's a whole different audience. Kind of like the MMO audience is always different than a game like Starfield. So yeah, they would totally put both those out in the same month. I think that would be. They wouldn't even compare with. And then of course the day before, still coming out November 10th. Oh, gamer browser, you're funny. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be other games coming out in June. I think it's going to be a pretty busy summer. And the big games will have just come out. Zelda. When is Final Fantasy 16's release date? But at a certain point, you have to just stop worrying about other games and get your game out there. And
it's a big Bethesda RPG. At a certain point, they're there is like, it would have to be like a pretty high tier game for them to think like, okay, this is gonna be tough to compete with. Like for me, I would think it would be Tears of the Kingdom, that they would look at it and say, okay, that's maybe gonna take up a lot of people's time. But I think also they might think that, there's not as much overlap between the two, the players of the two different open world games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they might not be as worried about that.
Yeah, it's June 22nd for Final Fantasy 16. So it's yeah,
indeed.
You got Diablo 4 June 6th, June 22nd, Final Fantasy 16. People will still be playing Tears of the Kingdom. People will still be playing Suicide Squad from May 26th. You just got to put the game out at a certain point. So
yeah, that's true.
I've been leaning towards June for a while. It's like obviously I'm like 49% it's going to get delayed, 51% June. That's where I'm at, and I think yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards like, I hope it. I mean, like I'm of the same opinion, but the 51% is probably going to be is probably pushed the needle a little bit by the fact that I just want it to come out in June.
Yes,
I want to play this game. I love sci-fi stuff. I want to see what they've got for me.
Yeah, we got a couple more stories I want to get here, but I'm like feeling pretty good about 2023 so far. There's been some good games already. I mean, Hi-Fi Rush, Fire Emblem Engage. I don't know. There's been some ones I've been really happy with. The Metroid Prime remastered. They've just been hitting for me so hard in a way that I don't remember. Like, even when there's been like good games early in the year, it's like, yeah, there's one awesome game early in the year. This has been pretty good. Dead Space Remake. There's Pizza Tower. Yes, that's right. How are you feeling about 2023 so far?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm liking the release state we've got. It's not so crowded that I'm like, oh god, I'm never going to be able to have time to play all of these games. So like there's just enough of a gap there where I can play things like, Wild Hearts, Atomic Heart, New Like a Dragon. Everything's spaced out pretty nicely so far. Although, I mean, with the way delays, the fact that delays happen pretty much at the last minute, somebody could come in and just throw a giant like dirty bomb in the middle of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got like a Dragon Ishin coming out soon. Wild Hearts could be a surprise. PSVR 2, maybe that. Yeah, we'll see. There's a lot happening. Kerbal Space Program 2 in early release. Yeah, let's go for it. All right. There's a report that EA is looking to pay $588 million for the rights to the English Premier League. This comes from Luke Plunkett at Kotaku. Programming and gameplay be damned, sports games live and die on their licensing. It's why Madden was able to crush NFL 2K, and it's why EA's FIFA, now known as EA Sports Football Club, has been able to grind Konami's Pro Evolution Soccer into dust. Not because they're better games, but because they paid to be the only game to feature the actual teams you want to see playing in the leagues you want to see them playing in. It should surprise nobody then that the sums of money involved in securing those rights are approaching astronomical levels. And while we're not even privy to the exact figures involved, video game publishers are nothing if not secretive. A leak from the sporting side of things has given us an insight into just how much EA's paying for some of its football rights. And, oh boy, Sky reports that 20 Premier League clubs were briefed at a meeting on Friday on a new 6-year partnership with EA Sports worth about $588 million. And then it's also close to being finalized. So this isn't just some like hypothetical, like that's the number that will get, put into place if this goes through. That's a big number, but it's actually a discount compared to FIFA. Now, this is not going to be like for the naming rights of the game. I don't think they're suddenly going to start calling it EA Sports Football Club Premier League or whatever. Although, who knows?
EA Premier League.
Yeah, EA Premier League. Exactly. It's probably not going to be that because first they don't want to narrow themselves down to just Premier League. Soccer's global, right, and they have a global appeal. FIFA was global. That worked. But you need the Premier League in your game if you're going to be the biggest soccer game, and you're going to matter because that is of all of the national leagues, the Premier League is equivalent to the NBA, the NFL. That's the biggest one. So you need that. But it's a big number. And this is the thing for me with sports games in general. The economics never made sense to me. $588 million. How do you make money on these games? And then you remember EA Sports Ultimate Team, FIFA Ultimate Team was something that makes like $1 billion every couple of years. It's like, that's how they do it, right?
I mean, like just scroll up to the NPD list we were just looking at and all the like EA Sports games that are on there.
Yes, and so it pays to get paid, and now they can afford like to pay the, you know, obviously they need those licenses. That's what makes them make so much money, so they got to pay the licensees. It's just still, like, there's so many players, and you have to pay a lot of money to each individual player, and I'm like, I don't know, are they getting, does, you know, the regular player on a team in the Premier League, does he get $10,000, or does he get, well, a check for like $700 or something like that? I have no idea. It seems like if it's just a $700, like they'd be like, this isn't enough. I know that game makes $1 billion. I need to get mine.
Right.
And at that point, does the game even make sense? But obviously, it does make sense if they're willing to pay this much money. It's just, it's still hard to understand, though. This probably does
spend money to make money.
This probably does go through, right? And they're gonna, yes,
probably.
They're spending money to make money, right? That's exactly what they're doing here. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just that I understand it economically, but at the same time, that sum of money, just like I'm sitting here like, that is more money than I will ever see in 6 lifetimes. That is, and they're paying that for a name, for a partnership. That is like, just, I mean, obviously I know intellectually that is a thing that happens in the games industry, especially with EA Sports, but just seeing that number still just kind of just gives me a little bit of pause, like, whoa, that is a lot of money.
Sports licensing continues to just grow and grow. Apparently, I mean, people are going to be like, hey, Premier League's already in FIFA. Yes, that's true. They have an existing deal. They're renegotiating their next deal. That $588 million figure, apparently about twice, maybe more than twice, what the current deal was worth. So sports leagues, sports team owners, they know how much their stuff is worth, and they keep charging more and more and more, which is why whenever players strike to get more money, they are right, because there's so much more money out there than what they're actually getting paid. So, yeah. Whenever you see a player is like, oh, they're going to give them $300 million for 10 years, that seems like so, like, no, it's like still kind of only a fraction of what these teams are making. Okay. Evidence mounts for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch hardware. This comes from Jordan Midler at VGC. Artwork for the collector's edition of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has seemingly given credence that an OLED Nintendo Switch themed after the game is planned. Images showing a supposed early unit of the console appeared online late last year, but as of this writing, Nintendo is yet to announce it. However, Twitter account Nintendo points out that the logos featured on the leaked console match that of the collector's edition of the game, which was announced this week. As this icon is seemingly yet to appear in any marketing material outside of the recent trailer, it does lend credence to the idea that the leaked console is legitimate. I have pictures of this, so I'll bring that up. But yeah, they're going to do this, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, I hit the wrong button.
I mean, if
Fade
that's
to black.
real,
I'm sorry, everybody. We're coming back right now. There we go.
If that's real, that's gorgeous.
I like it a lot too. It looks really cool. And the Breath of the Wild, you had the Wii U gamepad, and it was weird because like I was playing on the Switch. I'm like, that's weird. But now they've taken the time. They've put in the tablet you get is just a Switch now, and it probably looks exactly like this. So it'll be kind of cool to have one of these. I'm pretty excited, although I already have an OLED. I could always use new Joy-Cons, though, so maybe I'll talk myself into getting this as well.
I don't have an OLED. I want one.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think this is one of the reasons that Nintendo, although this is a report from Bloomberg, Nintendo hasn't said this publicly to investors, but the Bloomberg report is like, Nintendo's still thinking they're going to sell 20 million Switches next fiscal year, which would begin with that first quarter being Zelda in May.
Absolutely,
One way you do that is you put out a Zelda console OLED, and you hope a lot of people that got the original Switch for Breath of the Wild, now they're ready to upgrade. It's been, they didn't want to get the OLED at the time, so like, I'm not going to upgrade to that. It's just an OLED screen, whatever. I don't. Maybe I play mostly on the TV. Maybe I think a Switch Pro is coming. Well, now it's clear that that's still going to be a little bit of a ways off. Zelda's here now. Maybe you want to upgrade. You want to get a better screen. You want to get Joy-Cons that don't drift, at least for a little while. At least while you're playing. Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
I think this thing is probably going to come out and hit pretty hard. Also, to me this says, okay, we are due for another big Nintendo Direct focused on Tears of the Kingdom, which I think most people assumed was the case. So they can announce this, show yet another trailer, show more details about the game, and just kind of keep the marketing going. I'm ready for it. How about you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know when do you think that Direct would be? Do you think it would be like in May, like right before the release, or do you think they would have it a little further, like
I
maybe
think
in
it's
April?
probably about a month out, April.
Month out, yeah.
Yeah.
This actually, I love Zelda consoles as well because I mean I'm just a sucker for gold detailing, and that's something you can always get for Zelda. Even if I wasn't particularly fond of the game itself, it's like just having, well, the game of a particular console generation. If they have a Zelda console, I'm inevitably gonna love it. Actually, it got this one. This Switch actually reminds me they bundled a PS4 with Destiny, with one of the, I think it was the Taken King, and that was like this gorgeous like gold and silver with a white base, and I'm just a sucker for a console like this, and I
Yeah.
love it so much. So I look at this and I want it. I want it right now.
Yeah, I want it as well, and it's okay. Yeah, and it's these are the icons that are in the game that we've seen so far. So yeah, this is probably real. Obviously, these pictures leaked from someone in a factory late last year. So yeah, they're out there. They're being made. So now it's just a time of like, how is Nintendo going to announce it? If they don't do a Zelda Direct, what, like, how do you think they would announce it? It's just like in a tweet and say, hey, go pre-order it now, or do they do some like a Nintendo Treehouse Live or something? What do you think?
I wouldn't put it past them to do both, but I think if they did a direct, it would probably not direct, a treehouse. It would probably be, probably come with some more information. It wouldn't just be, hello, here's a new OLED console that we're making. I think it would have, probably they'd sneak in some information about the game itself. Probably not much, but enough to attract some more interest.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I asked a poll on, I kind of asked a poll on Friday. Monday, question mark, and 29.3% said yes, 70.7% said no. How do you feel about Mondays, Rachel?
Well, I mean, I don't like Monday mornings, but in Monday evenings, I put out a Perry Mason column, and that's usually fun for me. So I would go Mondays, yes, for me.
All right. I think I got a new poll I'm going to put up, but in the meantime, while I'm doing that, Rachel, why don't you tell people where they can find you, what you got going on this week, things like that.
Okay, well, you can find me at GamesBeat, where I'm a writer. All my writing goes through my Twitter, so if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can find me at Rachel Kaser. I don't know if my name is somewhere on the screen. I always forget, but yeah, it's just my name.
Jan will probably do it. So yeah.
Okay, but yeah, it's just my name on as my handle on Twitter, and I'm probably going to have an NPD report coming out today. And yeah, I think later this week you're going to see a couple of game reviews, at least one this week and probably one early next week, because there are a couple of games that have the same review embargo, so I kind of have to do some triage.
Oh,
That'll be something to look forward to.
It's suddenly that time of year. It's like review season, and it's just back to back to back. Keep going. What else are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that I do, personally speaking, I do a Golden Girls column every Sunday, I did that yesterday because I'd already pre-written it, luckily, so all I had to do was add images and just immediately go back to sleep. And then on Mondays, I do a Perry Mason recap. So again, I know this is something that is absolutely like just fascinating to gamers. An old 50s law show. I know this is something that they absolutely enjoy. So that's coming out today, and it involves a plane crash and a poisoned thermos of coffee.
Ooh, that's good stuff. Have you checked out that Poker Face show on Peacock? It's trying to go for the vibes of an older procedural television show. It even has like the similar opening credits of like just that big yellow blocky text. And so I like all those aspects. I'm like a little bit mixed on the show though. I like most of the performances, and the mysteries are pretty good and fun. And it's nice to have a bite-sized mystery of the week style show. But some of the, I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way, because in Columbo you always get the character the villain is always someone from the upper class, and in like the second or third episode of Poker Face, the villain was just some schmuck with clear issues, and he was just like a mechanic, and I was like, man, this doesn't feel as good getting hit, like having seen this guy get his comeuppance. He just needs help, and so it's like weird.
Yeah, I haven't seen the show. I don't have Peacock, but if I do get Peacock, that will be something I need to check out.
Yes, it's still worth checking out. Absolutely. Okay, I got the new poll ready to go. Do you think Square Enix is happy with Forspoken's sales performance? We will get the full results for that on Wednesday. Tomorrow, if you're watching this live, you're listening to this on Monday, please be sure to tune back in for the Giant Bombcast. We'll talk about the week's news on there. Me and Jan will get the crew together and have a good time. In the meantime, though, what else do we have going on Giant Bomb? We'll be recording some stuff today, so look out for those things to go up on the site. I think I'm gonna try to do a Metroid Prime quick look today. That'll go up. I'm still so excited about that game. And then we'll have most of our normal shows happening, so just kind of keep an eye on that all week. But yeah, Rachel, thank you so much for spending time with me today talking about video games. I super duper appreciate it.
Problem. I mean, like I said at the top of the show, this was just good luck. You caught me at the perfect time.
I'm feeling good about that. I think that sets a good precedent for this week. And everybody else watching, you're the best audience in gaming. Thank you so much. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.